And good morning and welcome to the VSA Capital 5-Minute Morning Mania on Wednesday, June the 15th, the second day of Royal Ascot. Don't know about you, Ollie, but all the ideas I had yesterday were a complete and utter disaster.
I was busy following the cricket. Don't need anything else when Johnny Bairstow's in that kind of form.
Well, I'll tell you what, none of it could be as bad as the bloody football last night. Hungary 4, England 0. What a disaster. I don't know. We're always optimists in this country and it always goes wrong. Talking of which, let's turn to the market where it's getting hot. Well, the weather's getting hotter and hotter. The market's getting horribler and horribler. I don't think there's a lot of mining news out this morning. Not a lot that I saw anyway. What about, did you see anything?
No, there's a couple of bits of news, but I think people are enjoying PDAC and focusing their attention away from the markets at the moment.
I mean, and also I think, commodity prices, which sort of went through a hiatus a few months ago and everyone thought we were going to go to the moon, they've all started sort of coming back a little bit, haven't they? And coming off the tops a little bit, which is actually what you'd expect, because of course with the sort of rampant inflation we've got and consumer squeeze and interest rates going up, you would expect demand to go down and therefore for commodity prices to follow down as well, which then brings inflation down, which sorts the whole thing out. So I suppose we shouldn't really be that surprised. I suppose the question is, as they come down, which commodities do you want to try and catch for any potential rally afterwards? I don't know if you've got a view there, Ollie.
I definitely think there's some of that in the short term, although Phil, our tech analyst, has been looking at company reports for their outlooks on spending for semiconductors and that sort of thing, and he's not seeing much in the guidance saying there's particular cutbacks because of pricing starting to come through yet. So I think it's still quite limited, the impact. So perhaps later in the year we'll see some recovery in pricing.
Yeah, I think it may take a bit of time. I mean, it's across the board pretty much, isn't it? Be it, the base metals that sort of iron and copper and that sort of stuff, but also some of, we've seen things like tin and vanadium come off, which we all felt were the critical metals that were going to be exciting. Lithium's held up pretty well, but I think that's a bit of a special case, but I think that's got to come back at some stage. So I think we probably, for the summer, is going to be pretty quiet on the mining front, unfortunately. Anyway, sounds like you don't disagree. Right, I don't think there is any news, so we might as well. Should we just wrap it up there?
No, there's a couple of things.
Go on then. Sorry.
Galane Lithium, Shanghai Mining Club member. They have provided an update on their Greenbushes South exploration project. This is a pegmatite project close to the major Greenbushes mine in Australia. The main project's obviously in Argentina, which is a brine. This is much earlier stage, and they've just been doing airborne surveys. That's worked up 18 targets across a number of pegmatite zones, which they've started to do ground mapping following up on those. They've identified some outcrops of 200 meters by 40 meters in the largest instance, which is sizable, and reporting similar geology to that mine to the north, and the soil sampling and chips samples they've taken are now out for assay. So we should see whether those grades match up with the mine to the north, which is obviously one of the biggest pegmatite mines in the world. So that's encouraging bit of work that's going on there, while the main project's advancing in Argentina.
Okay.
And then the other Well, the other two very brief updates. Base Resources reiterating their full year production guidance. They've been impacted by some flash flooding at their Kwale mineral sands operation, but looks like they're getting back on track pretty quickly. And the only other bit of news from Antofagasta, I think you may have covered this last week. They announced a leak on a concentrate pipeline, which they've now been able to access for repair, which they expect to finish by the end of June. But it does mean they're now guiding towards the bottom of their original guidance range for the full year, 660 to 690,000 tonnes. So towards the end of that, but they expect to give a firmer update in their Q2 announcement.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I think that probably is it. So let's call it a day there, and we'll see if we can find something really exciting tomorrow.
Speak to you then.
See you.